What's going on, everybody? This is your boy Shylin, aka Pittsburgh Musician, back at it again with another YouTube video. Today I'm going to tell you a little bit of story about music, but before I get started, I just want to thank a couple of people. I want to thank my fans out there, mostly my mother and everybody else, my dad. But here it is. So today's video is about the orchestra, chorus, and opera. Here it is. So when I was at Kappa, 2011-2012 school year, I was there on the very first day of September, which was in 2011. That day, that was my first day at Kappa, and I can remember it all too well until this day. But it was like family. Meanwhile, everybody was loving each other. They loved to... It was a creative and performing arts school. That was what it's called, aka Pittsburgh Kappa. So the first thing I like to talk about is the orchestra. There are two orchestras, one in the middle school and one in the high school section. Two orchestra teachers. One of those teachers was Mr. Hertrick, and I want to give a shout out to him. Love you, man. I really appreciate you, and thank you for everything you've done. But anyway, the orchestra included saxophones, which many orchestras don't have saxophones, and that reminded me of almost a symphony orchestra. That consider of the 6 through 8 orchestra. But in the high school section, it reminded me like Identical Twins, a symphony orchestra, which it didn't have saxophones in it. But most jazz bands, I noticed that they did have saxophones in it and trumpets. Believe it or not. Or the brass section, the entire brass section, but trumpets and trombones and the saxophones. And the rhythm section. But I'm not here to talk about that, but mostly I'm here to talk about the orchestra stuff. And here it is. So the orchestra consists of 4 families, and I like to introduce them to you. And the first family that I like to start out with is the string family, which that consists of the violins, violas, cellos, and basses. But there's one particular instrument that I want you to get. It's the harp. And get this, people, believe it or not, love to do the harp. Love to play the harp. I can remember a friend of mine who played the harp in the Kappa Symphony Orchestra, Stephanie Humendous. Now, especially, she actually played both, which that consists of the piano and the harp. And I did both myself, which that consists of the piano and vocals. Pianos and vocals. Yeah, that's what I did. But mostly, believe it or not, I actually majored in piano. That was my major. But my private piano teacher's name was Miss Ellen Keeney. We called her Miss Keeney, though. We don't call adults by their first name. But especially, believe it or not, on my report card, my first reaction was, wow. I had all A's, aka 4.0 student. On top of that, I even had high honor rolls, which was off the chain, which is awesome, believe it or not. But anyway, back to the music stuff. Here comes the Wind family of the orchestra. Now, when I think of the Wind family, it sounds beautiful. It sounds gorgeous. Now, in the Wind family, you have that consists of the usual flutes, clarinets, oboes, and bassoons. Now, let's talk about the cousins of the Wind family. Now that we got the traditional stuff. The cousins of the wind family consist of the cor anglais, which is the alto member of the wind family. And then you have the bass clarinet, contrabassoon, which is the lowest of the, which is even lower than a bassoon. All of a sudden, I could definitely think about the symphony orchestra, and I love. When I say I love, me personally, I love the symphony, and I perform all around the city of Pittsburgh. That's why my name is Pittsburgh Musician. Anyway, so the symphony orchestras include strings and winds, which we're definitely talking about the wind family next. So we already talked about the flutes, clarinets, oboes, bassoons, cor anglais, bass clarinet, contrabassoons, and just like the flute, you also have the piccolo, which is the highest of the wind family of the orchestra. And now let's talk about the last two families in the orchestra, and then we'll move on to the chorals, the choral next. So, the brass family consists of the trumpets, trombones, and French horns. Now, in the high school section, they also had the euphonium, piccolo trumpets, and the tuba, which is the lowest of the brass family. But at the end of the day, I still love this symphony. And now let's talk about the percussion family, which that consists of the snare drum, bass drum, cymbals, clavinovas, you name it, you got it. But most importantly to me, when it comes to the symphony, is the timpani. The timpani drum that goes boom, 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 boom. Like, the most important piece that I would play if I were to be the leader of the orchestra would be Symphony in C minor, Opus 67, aka better known as the Beethoven Fifth Symphony. Now, especially somebody would ask me, Maestro, why are you doing the Beethoven Fifth Symphony? Because symphony, and the answer is, believe it or not, symphony orchestras have all played the Beethoven Fifth repeatedly since they were born. Meanwhile, I would say here is an awesome orchestra of awesome musicians of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, or all around the city, or all around the country, who are giving their first performance of the Beethoven Fifth Symphony in Heinz Hall or Carnegie Hall in Pittsburgh. But you have to kind of pitch yourself to realize it's actually true. Moving on. Last but certainly not least, in the percussion family, you have wind chimes, all that type of stuff like that. But the most important instrument that I play would be the piano. And I love it. Now, if I would prefer an orchestra versus a Caucasian orchestra, I would do an African American, which is a fully black orchestra. That's what I am myself. That's how I was made of. And if you're wondering who I am, I'm a musician. But moving on. The choral stuff. Now, again, when I was in the chorus at Kappa, I was in two choruses. One would be the middle school orchestra. The chorus would be sopranos, mezzo-sopranos, and altos. At that time, that was a three-part harmony. But in the high school choir, it was traditional back then, which that consisted of the sopranos, altos, tenors, and basses. Now, especially, when I say I loved it, I loved it. On top of all that, I even had friends that even went to Pittsburgh Kappa. For example, Cheryl Cisse. Be sure to check her out. That's my girl. She could sing. On top of that, I had a friend of mine call me this week, and she asked me, what is your favorite part of the symphony? And that's the conductor. of the symphony. Now, especially, nowadays, I love conducting. Alongside that, I even love classical music, such as I like a lot of composers from anywhere between Mozart, Beethoven, Haydn, Schubert, Mahler, all that type of stuff like that. But the last thing I noticed, besides the choral and besides the orchestra stuff, I noticed that there was an opera there. Now, between the names that I just said, the opera. Now, again, besides the African American Pittsburgh Symphony Electronic Orchestra, along with the Pittsburgh Symphony Electronic Chorus and the Pittsburgh African American Electronic Opera. Now, 12 vocal ranges that I like to talk about, which that consists of coloratura soprano, which is the highest soprano that you could ever imagine. And it goes, I'm talking about Mariah Carey sopranos. Which is a super high soprano, believe it or not. Alongside that, you have the regular lyric coloratura soprano. Then you have the regular soprano. Mezzo soprano is a little darker than a soprano, than the usual. And that's definitely between alto and soprano. Alto is a low male voice, but there's a particular kind of vocal range that I want you to get. It's called a contralto. The contralto is the lowest of the female voice. And when I say it's the lowest, I mean it's the lowest. Then we move on to the male side, which that consists of the coloratura tenor. And again, it's the highest tenor. Or you can call it the countertenor. I like to call it the coloratura tenor because it's more simple. Meanwhile, I have a favorite tenor, which is also an African American, and his name is Lawrence Brownlee. Be sure to check him out. Then we go to the regular tenor. And I'm talking about Micah Stampley. He has the highest. He can go maybe from a low C to a F5. Believe it or not. And that's it. So, moving on. Regular tenors, mezzo tenors. That is definitely between tenor and baritone. Baritone is the low male voice. Bass is the usual, which is the lowest. But there's a particular kind of bass that I want you to get. Contra bass singers. And if you're wondering who I'm talking about Bill Gaither. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to check my other videos out. Also, check out my channels, Soul Radio, SoulRadio. Also be sure to check out Shailene Abram, and my name is spelled ShailenAbram. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. You guys, I actually had 14 views. Be sure to check my other videos out. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching. Peace. I'm out. Oh, another thing. Be sure to subscribe to my other channels. And I would love that if you would subscribe to Cheryl Cisse, which she is awesome. Be sure to check out everyone on YouTube. And hit that subscribe button on what you would like me to do next in the description box below. And I love you.